I mean, you ain't heard? I'm like a man smoking at a gas station.
What that mean?
I'm about to blow up!
Yo, what's up? What's up? We're back. Welcome to the Smoking at the Gas Station podcast. I know I went on a little hiatus, but please forgive me. I just been trying to rebrand this whole podcast thing, be very, innovative, with some of the ideas. And it takes time, you know what I'm saying? I got a small team. It's me, myself, and I. So I thank you guys for just tuning in and just bearing with me. But I think that this next guest will definitely make up for me being on a hiatus. This next guest I have goes by the name of Joy Young. She is super dope. I promise you. I know I always say that, but no, she's super dope. She's a brand manager. She's a talent manager. She's a producer, a TV producer. She's a director and philanthropist. So many different things. I think the name that we used for her was a Renaissance woman, and I still don't know if that is the right title for her. But she has a super good story. I think you definitely get a lot from it. So I don't want to spoil it, but go check out the website that we just set up, castmedia.com, KASTE media.com, and then also go hit up the social media on Instagram, Smoking Podcast. Man, that's it, man. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I promise you, I got a lot of content coming up, including some old video from some past interviews and stuff like that. So man, thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll let you at the end of the podcast. Peace. This is like the hardest part of the podcast because I don't want to put people in boxes. I hate putting people in boxes. I don't want to say you're one thing and you do so much more because you do. Mm-hmm. So I know for one, you're a brand manager, talent manager, philanthropist.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some throwback stuff of that.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Anything else I'm missing?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I am a talent and brand manager. Yeah. That's correct. I also do philanthropy work. That is also correct. But what a lot of people don't know is that I have a very strong background in, I guess, the live event production space and also in TV and film. A big part of my career started in that space. It was kind of simultaneously with that. So live event production, TV and film production. I also direct and produce content. And then what some people don't know as well is that I started in the music business. So I actually work for labels in the management space, but also marketing, promotions, digital strategy, that stuff.
So see, that's why it's the hardest part. I was way off.
I am an entrepreneur.
And I don't even think that's the word. I think it's I don't think they came up with the word yet. But
a Renaissance woman.
I like that better. That sounds better.
I'm a Renaissance woman.
So let me introduce you. We have Joy Young, right? Mm-hmm. We got hand claps. Okay. But no, so where are you from?
So I'm originally, a lot of people don't know this, I'm originally from Houston, Texas.
I love Houston.
Originally from Houston. But I was raised in Louisiana, a small town called Plaisance, Louisiana. They're not necessarily on the map, so we have to say Opelousas. So that's how rural this place is where I'm from. So Louisiana.
And so, tell me what was that like growing up in a small town?
Growing up in a small town was very innocent because I didn't have to grow up. I always joke about the area where we live. So my mom lives on 2 acres of land, and I joke about the fact that you can look out of her window and see cows and horses and farm life in this big open space where our pets roam all day like they want to. Growing up, I didn't have to worry about violence. We went down the street, played down the street with the little boys. Not like that, but I liked basketball. So I like to play basketball with the kids in the neighborhood. But my mom didn't have to worry about my safety. You know, like I would get off from school. I was in band, so band practice, and we have our own vehicle. So, I mean, I literally would leave school, go to the park, hang out with my friends. I probably wouldn't come home till, and this is high school, guys. I probably wouldn't come home till like 8, 9 o'clock. Okay. But she didn't worry. She didn't have to worry about my safety.
And so going back like to your childhood, like what was 10-year-old Joy like?
10-year-old Joy, that's what, the 5th grade or something like that?
Don't give me the line. I don't know.
I'm still a nerd, very educated, but I was a nerd in middle school, high school. I actually graduated valedictorian of my middle school. So 10-year-old Joy was very obsessed with making all A's, obsessed with music. So I'm a musician as well. That's another fun fact. I play flute and piccolo. I'm professionally trained. So at that age, I was obsessed with band. I wanted to play violin, but the school didn't have that because it's a small school. So they were like, okay, well, you can play the flute. And so that's where I started, you know, my love for music in 4th and 5th grade, playing instruments.
And so there, did you have, because coming from a small town, I would imagine that were you exposed to a lot, or like did you have any idea of? I
was not exposed to a lot. Actually, and I guess this can tap into what I chose to do as a career. So being that I was, you know, making all A's and B's and I excelled in school, I initially wanted to be a pediatrician. I was obsessed with medicine, science. One of my favorite stores was Discovery Channel store. So I would always ask for educational games and stethoscopes, microscopes, and that's the store I wanted to go to. Up until my freshman year in high school when 106 in Park started. And I saw that show. And, you know, I had a love for music anyway. And I always listened to music. So when I saw the show, I think that was, I guess you can say now looking back that was my first impression of another career that I had no idea about. So seeing that show, seeing, you know, Adrian Free talking to artists for a living and production and, you know, throwing in music videos and just enjoying music like that. And I was like, what is this? Is this a job? Getting paid for this? So I was like, bump that medicine stuff. Like, this is what I want to do. And it totally changed the trajectory of my mindset when it came to like what I wanted to do for a career. So at that point, I literally stalked out AJ and Free online. I was like, okay, where did they go to school? What did they study? How can I do that at the school where I wanted to go to? Because I wanted to go to Southern University. Shout out to the Human Jukebox.
We'll get to that.
Shout out to the Human Jukebox. I wasn't going anywhere else. So I was like, okay, what can I study at this university that put me in that direction? And after that, after I did my research, I was like, okay, bet. After that, I had everybody in high school calling me the next Miss 106 in Park because I was that serious about it. So that pretty much changed my life. Like that one show changed my life.
And so were there anybody telling you like, yo, that's crazy?
Absolutely. Even my mother, shout out to Mom Dukes, but she did not want me to pursue that. She didn't think it was a real career. Because after that, I used to always say, I'm moving to New York. It's the first chance I get. And she would get so upset. Like, why are you moving way over there? You don't need to tourist attacks and all that. Because, you know, that was around the same time 9/11 happened. She was like, you don't need to be going there. But I was like, I'm out of here. What do you mean? So.
I think that's dope because I come from a small town too. And I think I always admire people that are able to just ignore what people say or ignore the norm. Did you see anybody else leave? And
Absolutely not. I'm the only one in my family that works in this industry.
And
there was no other example.
So your mom still lives?
My mom, still lives in that same house I grew up in, on that same lot of land. She is an educator. She's retired now, but she started out her career as an accountant for Exxon. And then, you know, when she met my dad, moved back to Louisiana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, she became a school teacher and got her master's in special education. So she's been an educator her entire life. So that was my example.
I'm pretty sure she was looking at you crazy.
Absolutely. You know? But I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of think she too had big dreams.
Yeah.
Because in school she was heavy into like theater and drama, and then life happened. She got pregnant with my sister at 20, and so her responsibilities and priorities changed.
And I see that a lot too. Like even my parents, like everybody starts off with like huge dreams, and then, like just something happens to where it's like, okay, I gotta eat, so I gotta do this to survive.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. And so,
thankfully, I haven't been caught up in any of that.
Yeah. And so, like, what do you think it is? Did you like pay attention? You were just so focused.
No, I have an A-type personality. So when I put my mind to it, that's it. Like, I'm going after that. That was the career, even with band. You said we'll get to that. Even with that, everything that once I make a decision, like it snaps on, it's like, that's it. That tunnel vision after that.
And so in high school, so going up to, you were still making straight A's in high school?
I wouldn't say straight A's, but I graduated number 5 in my class. 5? So A's and B's, I guess.
Nothing's wrong with that. And so you say you always had your mindset to go to Southern. Mm-hmm. Why? Why did you want to go to Southern?
So Southern is very near and dear to my heart because I was basically raised on that campus. I guess you could say I'm a legacy. Yeah. My entire family went to Southern University. My mom, my dad, my sisters, my aunts. I still have cousins now that attend. I have cousins who are professors there. My blood runs deep in Southern University. So that was the first thing. And then, there's a big HBCU culture, but with the Bayou Classics and stuff like that. So every Thanksgiving we're in New Orleans, and my aunt lived in New Orleans at the time. So every Thanksgiving we're in New Orleans experiencing Bayou Classic. And I'm like, knee-high to a teenager, all of that. So I grew up in that. But at the age of 9, also, when I saw, I guess you could say I experienced the band for the first time. And to that point of being tunnel visioned, I asked my mom, was like, what is that? That looked like so much fun. I literally remember asking my mom, what do I need to do to be in that organization? And she was just like, you have to get an instrument, you have to enroll in band at school, and you have to practice hard. So at that very moment, I enrolled in, in the 4th, 5th grade, you have a decision. You can either take PE, band, or foreign language. I was like, I want band. And then when I got in there, I was so competitive. Like, the HBCU band culture is really competitive.
That's what I hear.
Even from middle school. So even in middle school, I would practice every day. I would participate in the honor band, getting first chair. I got so good to the point to where I was in 7th and 8th grade marching in the high school band. And then once I got to high school, you still do the honor band stuff, but I wanted to go to Southern University's band camps. So I started going to the camps. And then now you're having like the best of the best in the state and probably nationally in these camps competing just to compete with each other. And then they started Louisiana Leadership Institute, which was like all of the top players in the state. And the Southern University band director eventually directed that band. So I was determined. It's like athletics, right?
I see.
It's like athletics. They're drafting players. So once I got into LLI and the band director saw my skill set, it was a done deal after that. Because to get into Southern, I'm not sure how it is at other universities. You have to audition.
So it's really like Drumline, like the movie.
Yeah, I can't speak for any other school. I can only speak for Southern. You have to audition. And because the band director already knew my skill set, it was just a formality after that. So I auditioned. But this weird history about Southern, shout out to Dr. Greggs, rest his soul, but he only allowed so many females in the band at one time. So when I got to Southern my freshman year, there were only 4 piccolos allowed. And I had 2 red shirts, quote unquote, because there weren't any other spaces left. So I eventually got into the band my sophomore year in college.
And so did you feel, man, that's a lot. We got to unpack that. So did you feel, did you have any like anxiety going into college? Or
I was so confident. I can't remember ever being nervous because I trained and I was prepared and I knew expectations were managed because my middle school and high school band directors also went to Southern. So it was like a complete pedigree experience. I knew exactly what to expect. Going to the band camps, I knew exactly the processes, procedures, protocols. I was prepared. Like, we are prepared for that experience. So I was not nervous at all.
And so where do you think Well, first, do you think that has kind of helped you now, like in your career?
Absolutely. Like, I encourage kids, high school kids, middle school kids, to get into any kind of competitive sport or organization where there's discipline and responsibilities, because it definitely does help you later on in life. So, like, I can't speak for any other school or band, but, you know, we had to wake up for 6 a.m. practices. Right. You know, we had to be disciplined in our education, because if we didn't make the grades, we would get cut. It's just like athletics. Sports, yes, it's just like athletics. A lot of kids get out of school tuition. If they don't meet their grades, their what is it called? Scholarships are cut. Yeah. And once I got in the band, I got leadership positions. So being a section leader, like, I had to be the leader of other people and be the example that I want out of them. Yeah. So, like, and then just being on time, that whole if you're on time, you're late thing. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, now it's like I show up everywhere ahead of time, just so I have that cushion in case something happens and I'm not trying to be late. Because if you were late, then there were repercussions. Like, you know, it's very disciplined. Again, I can't speak for any other university, but ultimately, I would encourage kids to definitely get into different organizations, because it's like, you need those. You need that skill set. You need that in life. Right. Yeah.
And so, can you break down, because I didn't get to go to HBCU. I always wanted to.
You missed the experience.
I wanted to stump the yard, drumline, trying to live through that. You know? So, can you, like, break it down? Like, why is an HBCU so special?
First of all, from the start, it provided a higher education for people of color, period. We got that opportunity when it wasn't afforded to us. So that's to start. Secondly, it's a different kind of experience. Like, going to a HBCU, you will get the Black experience from not even just like extracurricular activity, but it's just like a sense of family. It's a different sense of family, brotherhood, sisterhood that you would get at a HBCU campus, because they care more than you would going to like a PI or whatever, because they don't really care that. You're just a number to them. But, and I'm not saying you're not a quote unquote number at HBCU, but the professors there, the advisors there, the counselors there, they want to see you succeed a little bit more than other institutions. And then aside from that, the organization experience. So, like, whether it's SGA or you're pledging Pan-Hellenic, or you're doing honors organizations, or if you're just doing whatever extracurricular or auxiliary thing they have going on, it's just a different kind of experience. Right. It's like you get rooted in your culture. It's like you're learning things that you will not learn at another institution. You know, about yourself. You're becoming a little bit more woke in who you are. You're understanding where you come from and who you are better. Right.
And I'm still jealous.
Yeah. So. It's just sauce. It's flavor. It's sauce. It's like gumbo. You know. It's just good.
So Southern, that's in New Orleans, right? Or
Baton Rouge. Well, we have different satellite campuses. We have one in Shreveport, Monroe, New Orleans, but the base camp is at Baton Rouge. Is in Baton Rouge, state capital.
And you recently went back. You was 40
and 40. See, I always go back. I didn't just recently go back.
My bad.
Hold on, let's clear that up. I dedicate and volunteer time and stuff. But yes, I was just honored. It's the inaugural class of 40 Under 40. Southern University's Alumni Federation just launched this inaugural class. They wanted to highlight and celebrate, graduates who have been doing amazing things in their communities. And to be honest, like, picking the first 40 is it's just hard, because I personally know people. I was like, damn, they should have been in this. Right. Like, one of my best friends, shout out to Courtney Scott, I was like, yo, Courtney should have been in this. Yeah. But I can only imagine the process, how many submissions they've received, people actually doing the due diligence of what they asked for them to be qualified. Because it's kind of like the Grammys. Like, people be like, why are you nominated for the Grammys? Because you didn't register with NARS. How about that? Yeah. So, but there are so many people who are doing great things who have graduated from Southern. I'm just so honored to just be included in that first 40. It's like, damn, that's what's up. I didn't even know y'all was paying attention to me.
That's super dope, man.
Yeah.
And so your whole time at Southern, what is your goal? What you focus on tunnel vision?
I have fun. Like, my experience at Southern, was in phases, right? So the freshman year, your freshman year at HBCU, all you want to do is party.
Right.
Now, some people fall into partying and then not making the grades and ending up having to drop out and losing scholarships. You don't want to go that route.
Right.
But there is a balance. You can party, but you can also get up in the morning, go to class, make your grades. There is a balance. So like for me, I was in honors college my freshman year. So I had 21 credited hours. So I had 8 a.m. classes to 4:30, whatever, but still partying Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I made sure I got up and went to class. That's the perfect freshman at an HBCU.
Right. Yeah, that's not the,
Because, yes, you want to experience all of that, but you got to be responsible and get up and go to class the next day. Like, you just have to, and there is no excuse. Like, you just can't. So that was my freshman year. And then also my freshman year, attending one of these parties, I literally said to myself, this party is so whack. Like, who threw this party? And they pointed this guy out to me. He ended up being Webby's brother. Are you familiar with the rapper Reddick? Webby. Yes. Ended up being Webby's brother. And I literally walked up to this man. I was like, listen, your party's whack. You need to hire me and my girls to promote the next one. Keep in mind, I have no company, nothing. I was just like, yo, but me and my friends, so I knew all of like the nerdy folks and band people. My other homegirl knew all of like Greek and just school organization folks. My other homegirl, she knew all the athletes. Right. So it was a good little, scenario we had going on. So when he was like, yeah, he just looked me up and down. He didn't say nothing. He was just like, yes. So we literally like ran with that. Yeah. We threw like the biggest pajama party that Baton Rouge had ever seen. Yeah. He rented out the biggest venue. It was insane. Like we was on there's 3 campuses in Baton Rouge. There's LSU, Southern, and BRCC, Baton Rouge Community College. So we promoted the hell out this party and we threw the biggest party. And at the end of the night, he walked up to us and handed us a wad of cash. And we were like, we didn't even ask for money. We was like, oh shit, we can make money doing this? Dang. Like I was always business minded and saw the vision or saw the potential of what could be. So when we saw that we was getting paid, we was like, oh, we should start a company. Let's start this company. Yeah. So we LLC, the name of the company is called Glamorous Entertainment. Okay. Shout out to Marissa. So we started this company and we hired some of our friends and it was like an all-female promotions company. But we didn't throw the parties. We only were contracted to promote the parties for the promoters, right? And it was dope. So one of the parties, Boosie came, Webby came, Fox came, like the whole Trio and T fam.
Too, right?
Oh, this was like 2006 when Write Me Down, everything was popping. So when they walked in, there was this woman who, she was a little heavy set. Yeah. So I was like, okay. She was bossing them around. I'm like, okay, so she ain't no groupie. Like, who is this? Yeah. So I literally went back and stalked her out on MySpace at the time. When MySpace was the thing. Dang. Stalked her out on MySpace, like, yo, well, I didn't say that, but I was like, I introduced myself. I'm saying, hey, me and my girl started this promotions company. If you ever need help promoting any of your projects, let us know. Right. It took her about a month or 2 to get back to me. I'm pretty sure she was doing her recon or whatever. But when she finally responded, she was like, yes, Fox is putting out an album. We want to hire you guys to promote his project. And we were like, what? But keep in mind, we never promoted an album. Right. We were just promoting parties. Right. But I don't know if instincts kicked in or if it just naturally came to us. Yeah. We were like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to like approach this very professionally. Yeah. We went and researched contracts. We put together a contract. We scheduled a meeting with her. We were trying to think of a rate. We didn't know what to charge. Yeah. So we were like, okay, let's just throw a number out there. We were like, I think on the contract we put $2,500. And it's so funny because now that I work for labels, I know what the budgets are. We could have charged so much more. But to us, college kids, freshmen, we didn't know. Like, we probably was just eating off refund checks. Right. You know what I'm saying? So we put that in the contract. We met with her. It was a coffee house or something. And I'll never forget, like, the scene. She was, like, on the phone, not really paying attention to us. She was having a deep, like, heavy conversation. She was like, give me the contract. She looked at the contract. She read it. She signed that bitch. We was like, nigga, she signed it. She signed it. Didn't say I can't even remember 5 words coming out of her mouth to us, but she signed it. And the next day, she pulled up to my dorm room in a white 15-passenger van and dropped off like 3 boxes of 24 by 36 posters and some flyers. And she was like, here y'all go. And so we had to like promote like street teamwork. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but promote flyers and put posters out all over the city. They wanted to do an in-store, so we didn't know what the hell we was doing, but we set up an in-store at a FYE. We hired a DJ. I don't even remember like really how people promoted. I can't remember how we promoted that back then without social media. But it probably was like flyers. We probably just put out flyers everywhere. I remember putting up flyers at gas stations. Like we was just in the streets promoting hard. That was a success. And then I remember like music video. It was like a whole bunch of stuff that we just had never done, but we just like, we rolled with it. Like we figured it out. And so after that, they decided they wanted to do, when I say they, Trill Entertainment, wanted to do like monthly events or weekly events. So they hired us to do that. And I think they finally got smart and was like, why are we paying these college kids? So I remember after one of the parties, Courtney asked the three of us to get in her car. I had another business partner at the time. And I remember it was like a scene out of a movie. Like she's in the driver's seat, I'm in the passenger seat, the other two girls in the back seat. And she's talking. She's like, yo, long story short, she was like, we want to offer you guys an internship. Now keep in mind, like I'm from Louisiana. Right. Marissa's from Mississippi. So Trill Entertainment was like hometown heroes, right? So when she was like, we want to offer y'all an internship, we just looked at each other and we was like, hell yeah. Like I don't even know what that means for real, but yes. So what people don't know about Trill, like, yes, from the outside looking in, gangsta music, all of that trap shit. No, these niggas was corporate as fuck. Like the CEOs and the general manager, it was a corporate situation. Our offices, we had like an office space with like, I think 4 or 5, maybe 4 office rooms. And one of the biggest media stages, film stages in Baton Rouge, Celtic Media Center. And it was at the time owned by Master P, the building. Oh, yeah. So that's where our office was. And so when we walked into the office, it was like, this is not what we expected. Yeah. Now, don't get it twisted. They definitely had the trap situation at the studio. But the work part of it was very corporate. So that was my freshman year. So going into sophomore year, when I was able to get in the band, things switched up a little bit. That spring, I pledged Sigma Alpha Iota. Shout out to my frat sisters, Kappa chapter, Southern University. And then that fall, I pledged. So in college, my sophomore year, I had to manage 21 credited hours. I had to manage an internship. I had to manage doing neophyte stuff for the organization. And I had to manage crabbing in Souther's band, which is no small thing.
So, what's that?
Freshman year in the band. Okay. Can't do shit.
So, like, talk about that, though, like, because that's what I want to ask you. You were doing all that 21 credit hours. Like, talk about balance, though. Like, how did...
Think about it. So, going back to discipline, and the reason why I appreciate being in the band so much, that shit taught me discipline. Having to go to school, make the grades, go to band practice, and because you're so competitive, you want to be the best, so you have to put time aside to practice your parts so you could be better than everybody else, and to also do your homework. So those skill sets I actually brought with me from high school, being in LLI, whatever. In college, it was just amplified. But at the end of the day, going into my junior year, I definitely had to make some decisions because it was becoming a bit too much. I remember the summer of 2008, coming out of my sophomore year, going into my junior year, I had a conversation with my craft sister, and I was just like, and two, because my responsibilities at the label were getting amplified. And, when you go into your junior year, that's when you're thinking like, okay, I have to focus on like the direction my life is going in. With my career, because at that year you're doing internships and you're getting into your main curriculum courses for your degree or whatever. So it's like, okay, I had all the time to try some shit out. Now I really need to like hone in on what is it that I need to be doing to manage my time effectively that's going to propel me in the direction that I'm trying to go. So in the band, so I was crab section leader. I became section leader my sophomore year. I was getting all of the awards, like most outstanding woodwind. I was doing woodwind ensemble, symphonic band, concert band. And it sounds bad to say it like this, but as a woman in the band, I kind of reached the ceiling, right? Like it was a cap. And I mean, just in band period, there's only so far you can go. You can either stay there and keep your spot all 3 years that I had left, or I could make room for somebody else to be great. So that summer, I had a conversation with my and she wanted my spot. So I'll talk about it. We'll be transparent.
Yeah, keep it real.
I thought I could trust her. I ain't gonna say no names. She know who I'm talking about if she ever hears this. But I had a conversation with her that summer, and I was like, listen, I have so much going on. You know, I don't know if I'm coming back this year. I have to make a decision. And, you know, for Southern's band camps, they ask all of the section leaders to come in on that Sunday when we receive the students, and they line you up, and you have to introduce yourself and say your role. And when I saw her walk in, I was like, what is she doing here? This is funny, though. Now that I think it's like hella funny, I was like, oh, let me go to the end of the line and see how she, addressed herself. She sure enough said, I'm the piccolo section leader. So somewhere in between my conversation with her, she had a conversation with who she had a conversation with, and then that happened. But to that point, God pushed me out of that situation because I was not supposed to be there any longer. So I was just holding on.
So at the time when you saw her, were you mad?
What? I was livid. So one thing that people don't know about Southern, when you're in the band all 4 years, you get the wool. That's like the goal. Okay. That's the thing that let people know you survived. So, I wanted the wool, but I was like, I got so much other stuff going on. So when that happened, of course I was sad. I didn't talk to the band directors. I didn't talk to my craft sisters. I didn't talk to I was like, it was almost like a fuck y'all. Like, can I curse? It was like a fuck y'all. I was like, I'm not talking to none of y'all niggas or whatever. So it pushed me away. Like it's what I needed to completely focus on school and Trill Entertainment. So that year, it was another blessing that happened. We were doing, I think it was Webby Savage, like 2 album release in New Orleans for All Star Band. And Trill at the time had distribution with Asylum and Warner. Atlantic is an extension of Warner. So that whole weekend, I was busting my ass. Like, we had so much going on. We did an album release party. We did it was a listening party, 2 music videos, and like an all-star party. It was like the same event. It was like 3 different things going on in the same event. And at the time, I was taking, I think, video TV editing class. So I could rent out like the cameras and stuff. So I had like a little videography hustle going on. Yeah. So they used to let me shoot our events for my class projects. Yeah. So I was doing so much. You're doing everything. But to that point, the national promotions director at the time, shout out to Frank Johnson, I guess he recognized my hustle. And after that event was over, I think it was like the following week or 2 weeks later, he called me and was like, hey, I got B.O.B. coming to the market and I need somebody to manage his promo run. I had never done a promo run for an artist because I was just an intern. And I think in between, like in that short moment, I had actually quit the internship because something had happened and I wasn't like tolerating it. I was like, I can't do this. I'm out. But it was also a blessing from God because when I quit, not too long after that, Frank Johnson called and was like, hey, we got B.O.B. coming to the market. I need somebody to manage the promo. Now, I had never done it, but if I was scared of that, I would have said, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But as you can see, I've never been that person. So I will figure this shit out. But at first, I'll never forget, I was walking down the sidewalk to band practice and he called and I was like, okay, I'm going to find you somebody, and I hung up. Then something inside of me was like, girl, you better call that man back and tell him you're going to do this. So I called him back and I was like, I will do this. Didn't know what the hell I was going to do, but I was like, I'm going to do it. So I talked to one of my friends who was a DJ. I just from my work with Trill, I knew what artists needed. So I knew if it's a project coming out, I knew he probably wanted to take the music to the radio station. So I coordinated that. Actually got him an interview on air. I knew he probably wanted to do a listening party. So I booked the studio and had all the DJs come in and media come in, do interviews, had some of the local artists come. So I booked that. I knew he probably wanted to go to some of the hot spots in the city. So like I took him to like this clothing store at the time called 80 Stitches and got him some free gear. Took him to like a restaurant so he could taste some of the best food in Baton Rouge. Took him to the campus so he can do meet and greets with students and do interviews with the campus media and all of that shit. So, but I knew that just from working the trail projects. It was just a matter of putting together in one itinerary for one day, which was a lot of work. But I had my friend, shout out to Earl, who helped me do that. So once that run was done, that man, now that I work for labels, in retrospect, know what needs to be done, he probably was looking at me like, yo, she is the truth. Right. And so he called me a couple of days later. He was like, he didn't even ask. He was like, yeah, you on the college team. And so from there, I started. Now, at that point, I was in school full time. I was doing the Trill Entertainment internship. And then, so God had to make room. Yeah. I left the band so I can make room to now become an Atlantic intern. And so at that point, I started dealing with national major artists. So every time an artist came into Baton Rouge, I was the person that was coordinating all of their promo activity. So from Music Soul Child, I'll never forget my 21st birthday. I was doing a listening event with the radio station for Music Soul Child and happened to go to his concert on my 21st birthday. So anyway, from Music Soul Child to Pretty Ricky to T.I. I remember when Paper Trail's album came out, I literally finished my classes, like booked the flight to Atlanta, came to Atlanta to do all of the album release events, partying. Keep in mind, you're a junior in college. They did this brunch. I'm sitting next to Kevin Lyles and and Michael Kaiser and Julie Greenwald, all the executives at Atlantic. I'm fucking probably 21, 22, having to live kind of double lives. Like, I'm in school full time, being a regular student. 4:30, I'm in the office at Trill Entertainment. Anytime there's a major release, I'm flying here. I had to go to Tallahassee to do promo for a week for Boosie, for Vibe Yard Fest. Like, I'm doing real label work as a college kid.
And they paying you or they paying you?
No, it was an internship, college internship for Atlantic. Trill Entertainment was paid. I had become, at that point, their marketing assistant. So I had that part-time job, but the internship was free. But I didn't, we didn't care about the money. It was just opportunity. Again, I had never seen that in Louisiana.
And do you see that, now, maybe with millennials, a lot of people are looking for the money, or they don't really want.
It's not always about the money. You have to find the need. And it's funny, I was listening to Stephen Furtick podcast today, and it's about the need, right? If you can source the need and fill that need, the money will come. The money will come. You will add value to yourself. And I preach that to my interns all the time. It's not always about the money at first. Especially when you're in college, you don't know nothing. Nigga, you better come get this experience. And those experiences led up to every paid label job I've had to this date. So once I finished kicked ass, I was such a the college reps at Atlantic were so competitive. We had national teams at every university, but we were all the top best of the best. We were all competitive, so we all used to try to outdo each other, and we're all still close now. But I remember Pretty Ricky was doing a promo run, and Baton Rouge wasn't even on the list, and I convinced Atlantic to bring them to Baton Rouge. And when I brought them there, I created the biggest, it was a block party. So I partnered with SGA, the Alphas. We had a barbecue. Shit was lit. I shocked myself because he was like, Joy, if this ain't lit, nigga. And it was. And they were so impressed. But to my point, so after graduating, when I eventually got into TV production work, so that was my junior year.
Wait, what was your major?
Mass communications, TV, radio, broadcasting. Okay. So I feel like I should rewind a little bit. So the Atlantic internship happened my junior year. And then my senior year, now I'm focusing on actually graduating. And at that time, to be very honest, I don't know if you're familiar with the history of Trill, but a lot of legal stuff happened. Boosie went to jail. Our CEOs went to jail. And I just had to really sit and think about the trajectory of my life. When I first got to Trill, I thought I was going to be working there for a long time, right? Not forever, but a long time. And then all of that stuff happened. And then going to the courthouse and sitting in those arraignments and just seeing the CEOs who I work for in orange jumpsuits and hearing about all of the artists that are getting arrested and them trying to get them to talk. I was surprised I didn't get arrested because just for being affiliated or whatever. Just hearing about Boosie's situation and then his friends getting killed. I had to be is this really where where I want to be. I felt like God always had his hands on me. Like I was affiliated with it, but I've never veered too far left into that life with that. So when when everyone was getting arrested, we had to shut down our offices. And so I remember having a conversation with interns that were working under me at that time and say, hey, I can't tell you what's going on, but we have to close the offices. I understand if you don't want to move further or, move forward or whatever, but this is the last day in office, so let me know what y'all want to do. And that happened, and I remember actually graduating, and when one of the CEOs when they finally allowed our CEOs to move to Atlanta, at that time I didn't know I was going to end up in Atlanta, but he asked me, he was like, Joy, we really want you to come with us. And I heard God say no, very clear. And so I told him, I said, I appreciate everything you guys have done for me, but I think it's time for me to move in a different direction. And they respected that.
And so, talk about that, because that's something I kind of been reading about, just actually hearing God. How did you?
At the time, I didn't know I was hearing God. Yeah. I think I was just moving off instinct. Yeah. I didn't know exactly what it was. It was just me just doing what I wanted to do. But it was. I think it was intuition or God just coercing me, no, or putting it in my mind. I didn't know that was God talking to me at the time. I have a very good testimony I'm going to share with you very soon. Okay. I'm getting to that part. So when I said that, at the time, we were working with a lot of, my business partner at the time, we were working with a lot of professional athletes. A lot of our friends ended up being pros. So Glenn Dorsey, Tyrus Thomas, there's a lot of different people. They reached out to us to help them develop their nonprofits. So when that happened, keep in mind, college was done. So internships were done. Yeah. Atlantic was done. Right. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I made a decision. I was like, okay, well, since I'm in this space now, maybe I should apply to LSU to get my master's in sports marketing. And I did. I applied, got my reference letters, actually from a coach from Georgia State, a friend of mine at the time, and got accepted. So in my mind, I thought I was about to go to LSU. I was ready. I packed my stuff up. Yeah. At the time I was driving a 2-door Honda. I packed it up. But it was funny because I stopped. I was like, I need a drink. This is a lot. But I was rolling with the punches. And I remember stopping to the daiquiri shop, and a friend of mine called and was like, Joy, she was working for BET at the time. She said, Joy, somebody didn't show up to work today. Do you want this job? I was like, what you mean? And keep in mind, as a kid, I always wanted to work for BET.
Yeah, coming back to
I was like, what? Yeah. I didn't care what it was. I was like, it's BET. But what it was audience casting for season 3 of Sunday Best.
Okay.
So I was like, hell yeah. Now keep in mind, when I got the call, it was 10 p.m. Yeah. I needed to be in New Orleans by 6, 7, 8 a.m. the next day. So I had to drive home, which was an hour in the opposite direction, so I can drop all of my stuff off, sleep for 2 hours just to get up and drive back to New Orleans. The gig was supposed to be for 2 weeks. It wasn't even supposed to be that long. But when I got in there, going back to the skill sets that I learned and just the discipline, I was so good at what I did, they kept me for the entire season. They put me up in a hotel. They kept me for the entire season. And from that point, I was referred to another production job. And keep in mind, it's still in line with my degree, right. God blessed me with that. They referred me to a job here in Atlanta. So it was CBS produced a show called Swift Justice with Nancy Grace. Okay. So never heard of the lady at the time. I wasn't into that stuff then. But I got hired, and that's what moved me to Atlanta. So that's the transition from freshman year up until when I graduated to moving here, and I moved here in 2010.
And so within all that, were there any times where you I don't know if this is going to work? Or
hell yes! It was not peaches and cream. What? Now we can get into the struggle. We'll get into the struggle. Because the college kids, you got struggle, but it's not real life struggle. Now you got real life struggle where you got to pay bills, you got to feed yourself, you got to find somewhere to sleep. Exactly. So when I moved here, I've always been the type of person, I never really thought too hard about what could be or what could happen. I was always the type of person to jump at the opportunity and I'll figure it out later. Yeah. As you can see from this story. So when I got that job, thankfully a friend of mine was like, you can come stay with me until you get on your feet or whatever. So I literally packed all my shit up in garbage bags. I had a 2-door Honda Accord coupe. So I packed all my stuff. Emphasis on the P. So I put all my stuff in this Honda Accord and I drove up to Atlanta and I was sleeping on my friend's couch or whatever. That particular show, the purpose of that show was to get me here. I was never going to be on that show long because I ended up getting into it with, keep in mind, I was still a little trill. So I ended up getting into it with this coworker who disrespected me and I had to find another job. So I started working for this company called Bargain Network. It was like a modeling agency, quote unquote. I don't know. But they had me in schools trying to recruit students and you would get commission based on how many registrations you got. Like, they give you gas money. Like, it was just like one of those things or whatever. But going back to my previous relationships. So when I got here, that stuff happened. I was staying from place to place, didn't really have anywhere solid to stay. But my manager from my internship, he hit me up and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be in Atlanta or whatever. I see you're here, like let's link up, let's have a conversation. Rewinding a little bit, a cousin of mine was signed to Brian Michael Cox. Okay. And they were all here. I actually met him. Shout out to Bertel in Baton Rouge. And you've seen how God works. I met him in Baton Rouge because he was signed to Capitol at the time. And one of my best friends was doing the same kind of work I was doing for Def Jam and also Capitol. But they wanted his promo one in Baton Rouge. Yeah. But that was my market. So she called me and she was like, I really need your help. I literally put this entire itinerary together for her and was like, don't worry about giving me any credit. And we are the closest friends to this day. So anyway, when I did that for her, I was supposed to work that day. I ended up getting off from work and I met up with them and that's how I met Bertel and that's how we found, like, we're actually cousins. We found out that we're cousins. We have the same last name. Like, keep in mind, I didn't even know. And that relationship helped me out in Atlanta when I got here. Because when I told him that I was thinking about moving to Atlanta, he was like, come, I'm going to put you in the mix with all of my people. You're going to be good. So when I got here, I started interning with Brian Michael Cox and helping my cousin with his music. So I was in the studio every day with B. Cox. And you're familiar with Brian Michael, Grammy award-winning R&B producer. All of your favorite artists, he did it. He touched it. So I'm in the studio every day. But keep in mind that the pattern here is that I'm giving. Like, I'm giving. I'm meeting needs. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And also
relationships. Yeah. So in the studio every day with him. So when Jamar, shout out to Jamar Giddens, who was the manager from Atlantic, I was telling you about, when he decided to come here and meet with me, I asked him to come to the studio. So he came to the studio. He was like, Joy, what are you doing? Like, I didn't even know you were still doing any of this. I was like, yeah, I'm in TV production, but I still touch the music now. Let's not get it twisted. So when he found out that I was here still doing music, I mean, he remembered how hard I worked for the label just as a college rep. He was like, yo, we doing this promo run for this group called Hamilton Park, who was signed to Andre Harrell in Atlanta at the time. He was like, I'm hiring you to manage their run in Atlanta. And the beautiful part about that was because I was interning from B. Cox, I knew everybody. Everybody knew me. I had all the connections to do what I need to do for HP at that time. So Atlantic hired me at that time. Right. And so I was managing that for about a year with Atlantic. And so I ended up starting to also work records with DJs in clubs. I was in clubs like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-4 different clubs a night doing street team work, hiring street teams to promote. So like Wiz Khalifa, again, B.O.B., pretty much the entire urban roster at Atlantic. I was managing promo for that side of the label, the urban side. But again, you have to remember, kids, I was young. I was so young and moving so fast. I still didn't have a real solid place to stay because even though I was making money, it wasn't enough to support rent and bills and stuff like that. It was just enough for me to parlay or whatever, but it wasn't enough to take care of myself. And then too, like, this industry can be real grimy. So I was dealing with different personalities. I won't go too deep into that because I don't think this is a platform for that. But I was dealing with some things that I didn't really know how to manage at that time because I was so young and I didn't have that spiritual foundation to know how to manage with that stuff. So I think I fell into a state of depression. Like, my car ended up getting repossessed. Dealing with all of that, like, I guess you can say it was a coping mechanism. So I started smoking weed every day. Like, it got to the point to where I wanted to take the edge off in the morning, so I would take a shot of tequila. Never did anything hard. I just stuck to the weed and alcohol. But I fell to my lowest point because I remember the one person I was staying with, we fell out. We're good friends now, but we fell out. And so I ended up moving in with my mentor at the time, and she only had a studio apartment in Buckhead. So it was me and her in a studio apartment, and then she ended up having to take her nephew in. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
So, wait, not to cut you off. So, like, even now, y'all didn't really have Instagram back then.
Oh, no.
But
not Instagram. There was Twitter, but not Instagram.
From the outside looking in, people be like, man, she's...
Exactly. So from the outside looking in, I was at the top of the world.
Right.
You know, because you still have those relationships, so you can finesse your way into things, even if you don't have money. Like, so in this industry, like, rich people don't necessarily have to buy stuff or pay for things because it's always given to them. I'm not saying that I was rich, but I had those connections. So I never really had to come out of pocket for anything. Right. I was always taken care of. Even though I was struggling inside, I was struggling on the outside, but I didn't let people see, but I was struggling on the inside as well because I was so empty. Like, I felt really empty, you know, and I was the only one here. I didn't have any family here. Right. I didn't have a support system. So I was just out here trying to cope, trying to deal, trying to manage. And then too, at that time, you got to think about it. Like, when you aspire to be something for so long, and you're hustling, and you're reading all these books that these people have wrote. So you're like, okay, well, they went through it too. Like, let me just fight my way through it.
Exactly.
But there's two different ways you can go. There, drug addictions. I don't say jail, but as a woman, maybe the strip club. Oh, to that point. So when my car got was about to get repossessed, I called my cousin in Houston thinking he had the money. I thought he did. He probably did. But he said to me, "You in Atlanta?" And I was like, "What does that mean?" He was like, "Oh, you could just go dance for a little bit and then quit." Now, the reason why I say I felt like God always had his hand on me, what if I didn't have enough of respect for myself or morals? And I was like, you know what, you're right. Let me go do that for a little bit, then quit. What if I would have done that? Where would my life be right now if I made that decision?
Right.
So when that happened, that's when I knew, all right, Lord. Like, I remember my mom gave me this Bible. Like, she always had this Bible that I never opened. Yeah. But in that moment, I opened it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm reading. But I need, like, I was searching for something. Yeah. And the thing about God is, like, all you need to do is seek and you will find him. So I was seeking at that point. So once I started to seek him, like, seek for a word or direction, or it was something... A really good friend of mine at the time, Robin Nicole, shout out to her. She's my spiritual mentor. She called me. She said, "Joy, God has a word for you." Yeah. She was like, "You need to quit that job." Talking about Atlantic. Quit that job. Quit this boyfriend you have. Because he was also a bad influence at the time. Because I smoked mostly because of him. Making and baking. And also my mentor at the time, she smoked all the time. So I was just around weed all the time. Yeah. So... waking and baking. She was like, quit your job, break up with this boy, pack all your stuff up and go home. And it was a prophetic word. And she was like, go home and focus on God. And in 6 months, it was specific. She was like, in 6 months, God will restore you back to where you need to be, plus some. And keep in mind, like, I'm 22, 23. I don't even remember how old I was, but I was 22, 23. I didn't have a spiritual foundation, barely went to church, wasn't praying or nothing like that. I think I was going to church just because of my friends, but I wasn't like doing it myself. So I was like, okay. But the thing that broke me was I didn't have nothing else to lose. Right. You was at the bottom. Yeah. I was at the bottom. I was like, what else? Yeah. I'll take a shot at it, whatever. I don't have anything else to lose. And it was so funny, God also made a way for me to get home. Yeah. Like, her cousin was on his way back to Louisiana, so she was like, oh, he said you can ride with him. So I was like, shit, all right, bet. So that goes into this testimony part of it all. So I definitely went home. I think at that time I changed my number. I didn't tell anybody I changed my number, but I changed my number. I got off social media. I really just erased myself from the industry. And I remember getting home and opening up the Bible and it was just like, all right, now what? What should I do, Lord? And I clearly heard him say, fast and pray. And I was like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? Yeah. And I was like, show me what you mean. And so opened the Bible and flipped to scripture, and it was a scripture about fasting and praying. So I did that. And I was like, okay, well, how often should I do this? And he was like, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday till 1. I was like, damn, like.
Did you like hear a voice or like?
Yeah. Hey. I don't know if I'll say a voice, but I heard the instructions clearly, and I obeyed. I obeyed those instructions, and then I remember going. Like my best friend at the time, she would take me to church every Sunday, so I was in church every Sunday, church every Wednesday. I even got baptized, but at the same time, it's like I'm doing these things, not knowing that I'm obeying God's word. I'm just doing these things because it felt like a spiritual retreat, to be honest. But then at the same time, I was still battling different things, internally, like, oh, damn, like, okay, well, I guess I have to be okay with being here. And keep in mind, it's a rural place. They only have public transportation in Opelousas. So at one point, I had to be okay with the idea, okay, this is it. Like, this is where I'm going to be until I figure some shit out.
Were you worried at all what people were going to say? Like, oh, she coming back?
I didn't care. At that time, I didn't care. So I even started applying to jobs, and it's funny because like I would get into those interviews, and all they want to know is, oh my God, you work with this person. What was that like? And I was like, yo, what's up with this job that I'm here for, whatever. But then I heard God say, you're not here to work. Be still. You have everything you need. Yeah. Your job in this moment is to focus on me. So focus on me.
That's tough.
Yeah, so I realized like, okay, cool, I'm okay with not working, because when you have an A-type personality, you want to be busy all the time.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, so was there, but like the clock was ticking. Like I was like, okay, it's the 3rd month, it's the 4th month. I'm still keeping that 6-month time frame in mind. Like, okay, Lord, what's happening? Going back to relationships. So at the time, this PRO company, CSAC, was doing some things internally where some of the executives were switching companies over to another label, whatever. Long story short, my mentor at the time called me and was like, girl, you must be partying real hard. And I was like, what you mean? She was like, well, Cap, her executive, her senior executive at the time was like, we were supposed to get hired at this label together, but they can't afford his salary and mine. So I put your name in the hat. And at the time I was like, okay, whatever. Good luck. I hope I get it, whatever. And so I ended up submitting a resume. I ended up going back to Atlanta to interview at one time. But the church that I was going to at the time, I was working with them to do like youth group stuff. Okay. So he would bring me back to like work a little bit. But while I was there, I was interviewing for this label gig or whatever. Still not really thinking too much of it. Like I didn't want to be too hopeful, whatever. But when it got down to that 6th month, me and I got baptized. Me and my mom got into it. So I ended up moving into my sister's or whatever. But I remember going to church on a Sunday, and I came back home to a voicemail of my mom saying, oh, you got a phone call from World Changers Church. They want you to come and interview, da-da-da-da. This is the 6th month, keep in mind. I'm like, oh, snap. So keep in mind, I didn't have no money, so I had no way to get to Atlanta. My mom ended up having to give me like a Greyhound bus ticket back to Atlanta to interview. On the Greyhound. But while I was packing, I thought in my mind that I was going to be like there a day. Right. But something said pack for 2 weeks. So I put enough clothes in my suitcase for 2 weeks. Yeah. Got here, interviewed. They're doing the equal opportunity thing. Like, okay, we got other interviews we have to do, whatever. And I think I interviewed at like 9 a.m. or something like that. And so I got back to my friend's apartment. And, I was like, well, I hope I get it. 5:30, they called me and was like, you got the job. Dang. This was a salaried label job with benefits, period. So this is my first real salaried label job. So that was the first thing that was restored. And it was at a church, Creflo Dollar and Pastor Taffy's church or whatever. So that was the first thing that was restored. Got the job, and it moved me back to Atlanta. Yeah. So when I got that job, I think I was at my friend's apartment for like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. I ended up getting my own place in Midtown. And keep in mind, I still didn't have a car. Yeah. But I'm in Midtown, so it's cool. Like everything is in the same area. So I would have to get up at like 6 a.m. because they had corporate office hours. Like I was the executive assistant to the general manager, so I had to get there before him. And I would leave after him, going back to the discipline. Because I used to do the same thing at Truro. I would get there before the other executives, and I would be the last one to leave. So I did the same thing. So I have to get up at like 6 a.m., catch the MARTA bus to, I think it was Midtown Station, all the way to the South Side. Because that's where the office is, in the South Side. So I guess my boss was seeing me do this every day. one day we had label meetings on Wednesday. So one day after the meeting, he called me into his office. He was like, I need you to pull this car around front. I'm like, that's weird. Why would he ask me to do that? But I was like, okay, whatever. Pulled the car around front, and I handed him the keys back. He was like, what you doing? I was like, nigga, these your keys. Like, he was like, no, that's for you. I was like, what? Hey. So he surprised me with a car, and guess what kind of car it was? What kind? The same one that got repossessed. He didn't even know. Hey. So God fulfilled that whole prophecy. Yeah. The 6 months, the label gig, my own place, and my car. All because I was obedient.
Look, can you talk about, because that's another thing I've been looking at, it's like faith. Like, what was that like? Because I'm pretty sure you had times like, all right, man, like, you said this, but it's not even looking nothing like what you said, you know? What is that faith like? What does that look like?
You just have to be anchored in it, especially when you have nothing else to lose. Even when you do, even when it's good, you still have to be anchored in it. Like, you just have to trust God, be anchored in the word, and just believe that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. But at the same time, you also have to see, like, sometimes it would look like it's bad, but that bad is going to work for your good. So, for example, when the whole thing was blowing up with the Atlantic, it looked terribly bad. But at the end of the day, all of that still worked out for my good, because all of that experience that I got working for those two labels was what I needed to get hired at Arrow Records. So, I mean, it's hard. I know, like, when you don't have a spiritual foundation, it's hard, because it's hard to believe in something that you can't see or touch, something that's tangible. But it's like, if you do ever have an experience like that, and you are obedient, and you see the fruits of that obedience, then after that, it's easy to have faith. Yeah, but it's just that first time, you just have to believe and hold God. You do have to hold God accountable to his word. Right. It's in the Bible somewhere.
Pastor Joy over here, she's preaching today. But so now it's probably easy for you to have faith. Well, not easy, but it's kind of, it's more, what's the word? Maybe more
practical.
More
I guess,
practical.
You know, it's a practice thing. So even when I got Our Records, and Robin has been in my life ever since then. When I got that job, she was like, oh, this temporary. Like, she would always just throw like little words, prophecies out there like, oh, this temporary. Sure enough, I was at that job for a year before my boss quit. But God has placed people in my life as like not vigilantes, just to help me be vigilant to what's coming. So when he was about to quit, one of the guys who was producing on an album we was putting out, he took me on. She was like, hey, I need something to tell you. I have to tell you something. He took me on. She was like, yo, Cap, about to quit. And before he does that, we're going to go back in his office, and I'm going to pay for you to start your company. Because what I don't want to happen, or I don't want to see happen, is you not have something to fall back on when this happens. We went to the office that day and went on the Secretary of State website and registered J Couture Productions. And so when Cap quit, I wasn't surprised or shocked or whatever. And when he did quit, God set that up so beautifully. I was getting unemployment and severance pay. So I didn't work for 6 months after I left Arrow Records. What I was doing, I set up J Couture Productions during that time and the philanthropy work with Stop Your Bullying. And that following, I lost my job in July of 2013. So January of 2014, I got my first client with J Couture Productions. And I was also still doing TV production work. So at that point, I started working for BET again. I started working for VH1 and doing all like the Grammys and Christmas tree lightings at the White House, like doing all kind of different freelance production jobs and doing my work with my company. So from January 2014 to July 2015, I was solely working on my shit. So for J Couture, and still also freelancing with labels. So they were hiring me to set up listening events and meet and greets and promo runs, doing stuff at Atlantic. And then going back to my relationship, so when I was doing promo runs for Hamilton Park, they had a project manager who worked for Atlantic at the time. She was just a project manager. But because I was so ambitious and so bold, when I met her, I asked her, I said, hey, can I come to New York and shadow you for a week? I was always like that. Even when in college, like when kids were doing spring breaks and stuff like that, I was like, oh no, I'm going to take this money. And I went to New York and shadowed executives in New York and built my relationships in New York. So even, and to the point, it's not always about the money. Even when I was getting paid by the label and I saw this woman being so great in what she does, and I looked at that and I was like, maybe that's something that I want to do. Let me experience that for a little bit. I asked her, I was like, can I come shadow you for 2 weeks? Right. She was like, yeah. She didn't think I was serious. Right. I sent her my flight itinerary and was like, I'll be there. And so at that time, I think Diggy was getting signed. And she allowed me to sit in every label meeting he had in every department in the building. So at that moment is when I learned what it took infrastructure-wise at a major for an artist to put out a project. So that was a very valuable experience for me. And so over time, she was promoted to marketing director, whatever the next level is, but now she's the VP of urban marketing, and I still have that relationship to this day. So when she was the marketing director and I started my own company, I reached back out to her, kind of going back to how I hit Courtney, and I said, hey, I started my own company now. These are my services. If you need help or anything, let me know. I started coordinating college tours. She would put the developing artists from Atlantic on those tours. And then Atlantic became a client. So with my relationships with all of the street teams across the country, I started managing. I kind of became the national promotions director for their urban acts, our urban developing acts. So I was managing promo runs for Breonna Perry, Kevin Gates, getting big contracts to do that. Like they became a client, Warner and Atlantic. And then Epic started hiring me to do like little events for their developing artists. So it's like I started as an intern, then did promotions management, started my company, and now the label is a client. I did Trey Songz. What was that? Trey Day? Is it Trey Day?
Probably, that's one of them.
Yeah, I did that promotion. Like I managed that entire national campaign. I did Tank's album, his national campaign. So that relationship, like those relationships are valuable. That's why kids, interns, if you're listening, those relationships are important, especially if this is what you're trying to do. So when she got promoted to VP, I hadn't talked to Deani in a long time because after that year, I think that was 2014, I started to get really heavy into production. So I wasn't working on music projects as much. We just hadn't talked. So when she got promoted, I did this whole spill on Instagram. I didn't even know if she was going to see it, if she was going to read it. Didn't know.
So it was like, it was genuine.
It was very genuine. Yeah. And when I didn't even know she was following me, she responded and wrote me a book back, and I was like, damn, like that's what's up. Like I didn't even know. So like 2013, 2014, in those 2 years, I was managing my own thing. And then 2015, going back to my college internship, Corey Sparks. Shout out to Corey Sparks, my big brother. He, at the time when I was working for Trill, was doing radio promotion work for his own company, but was working the records for Boosie, Webby, Fought, like all those guys. Right. Fast forward to 2015, he became the national, Corey, don't kill me if I get this wrong, national promotions director, radio, I don't know. He's up there with Epic. But he was managing Jadena, Classic Man, that promo. And I'll never forget, this is a funny story, y'all. So it was Cinco de Mayo 2015. The next day, I'm like in bed hungover. Neither one of Corey didn't know I was hungover. But he texted me, he was like, hey, would you mind working for Janelle Monae? And I had just found out who she was the previous year because I had bought her Electric Lady album. I had never heard of Janelle Monae. I bought her Electric Lady album, and I listened to that album every day because I didn't know artists like that still existed. Like, it's real music.
So what was it about it that you liked?
It was just refreshing. It was just refreshing, like to hear the instrument. As I'm still a musician, keep in mind, to hear the instrumentation and the interludes and the storyline and the story arc, and then to see her and she's beautiful and she's black and brown and just the creatives. It was just so refreshing. Like, keep in mind, I've been working with rappers and people like, I'm not disrespecting nobody, but it wasn't that level of creative thought that was put into the project. Exactly. So to come across this project, I was refreshed. So it was so good. I listened to the album every day. And then when I saw she had a show at the Tabernacle, I didn't even think twice. I immediately bought 2 tickets. I didn't know who I was going with. I was like, somebody coming with me, but I'm not about to miss out on this show. Because I was like, if the music is this good, I already know the live presentation is going to be amazing. So I went to the show. That was the previous year.
Right.
So when Corey texted me and said, hey, would you mind working for Janelle Monae? I was like, hell yeah, set the shit up. I didn't think he was going to do it immediately, but he set up a text thread with me and my general manager right now, Mikkel Moore, and was like, Mikkel, this is Joy, this is Mikkel. Y'all can take it from here. And I was like, damn, Corey. Keep in mind, I'm hungover. I was like, oh, it's happening too fast. I wasn't ready. Like, I got to get my thoughts together. Right. Shit. So Mikkel was like, are you available to meet? And I was like, yeah, sure, when? He was like, today. I was like, bro, he's killing me. But, you know, again, I'm the person to jump at the opportunity. I don't care. You're talking about somebody who had to get up at 6 a.m. practices after partying with Greeks all night, hungover. Like, it's nothing. Like, I will shake back. Believe me. So when he was like, today, I was like, sure, what time? I think it was like 4:30. Now, look how God works. I was like, where? He was like, what was the name of the place? LaFonda's. Guess where LaFonda's was? Across the street from my apartment.
Oh, so he was right.
I didn't even have to get up and get in my car. I just had to get up, drink some water, put some clothes on, do my hair, and walk across the street. You can't tell me that's not God ordained.
That's crazy, Dad.
So long story short, that one meeting lasted for like 2 months. It was a sequence of meeting with him a few times, meeting with the artist a few times, eventually meeting with Janelle, meeting with the entire management team. Keep in mind, I was working 3 different shows during this process. I was working for Oxygen with the show Nick Cannon Like a Boss. I was working for Fox with this show called Home Free. And then there was another show called Paternity Court that I was working for. So but as a freelancer, you can do that if you have the time capacity. But yeah, I was doing all of that in this process of interviewing with Wonderland. And I never forget the day I walked in Wonderland. I think it was like the last final meeting I met with Janelle. And it was just like this magical place. But it was all the energy that I craved because I missed working in music. So it's like people on conference calls, the artists in rehearsals, and, you know, just people are just busy. Like it's just the magic of the music business. And I was like, damn, I miss this. And then Janelle came downstairs and we talked, and then we went back up, we talked, we met. And but I realized in a moment, everything that I had ever done from the point of internship to that day, I believe is the reason why I got hired. And so that was 3 years ago. And I've been with Wonderland for 3 years. And I still have my company, J Couture Productions. I've recently tapped into directing and writing and producing music videos and other digital content. But then within the last year, I started Playtime Talent Group. Because, Playtime Talent Management, because I had management clients, but when I got to Wonderland, I was like, I need to focus. I want to focus because I want to excel. So I got rid of all clients but one. And the only reason why I didn't get rid of Ivy is because that's my sister, and I just couldn't do it. But I had like a team of like 15 people working under me. It was like a real situation. I was just like, you know what, guys? I'm dissolving for a while. Thank you, whatever. But yeah, I wanted to focus. I wanted to learn processes, protocols, procedures. I wanted to make sure I was doing what I was hired to do and excelling in that. And then when I felt comfortable enough, I was like, okay, I want to build back up my own management situation. So I just started Playtime Talent Group. I transferred Ivy over to that side. And it's so funny how small the world is. When around this time when I was doing that, so Hamilton Park, the group that I was working with for Atlantic, they broke up in 2014. Like the group dissolved a little bit. I didn't know about it really because I wasn't talking to anybody, any of the older, managers, whatever. So I didn't even know. But then I found out about it. And then in last year, I remember seeing a post about them getting back together. At the time when I was working with them, I ended up getting a copy of the contract. So I knew what this contract said, and I knew that they could not operate in the manner that I know they wanted to until they did their due diligence legally. So I reached out to one of the artists, one of the members of the group, and I had a relationship with him or a friendship with him because when I did the college tour, he came on the tour. So we ended up becoming friends. So when I saw that post, I just reached out, I was like, hey, before you guys, start working, you should probably cease and desist. Whatever activity you have going, because I saw something about an interview, I was like, you probably shouldn't do that. Take this contract. I have a copy of your contract. Take this contract to an attorney. Have them look it over. See what you need to do to make sure that A, you can still use the name Hamilton Park, that you can still be a group, that you don't owe nobody no money, all of that. And so they did those things. They followed my instructions. They did that, and the attorney pretty much told them the same thing that I told them. And so they ultimately had a conversation with their old manager that gave them the green light to move forward. And once that happened, I was like, okay, well, we still need to talk to Atlantic to make sure you don't owe them no money. Right. So being that I had a relationship with their old project manager, and now she's the VP of marketing, she can do, have whatever conversations she can have. Yeah. I just texted her, I was like, hey, Deani, I hope all is well. I really need some advice. She was like, okay, call me. So I called her. I was like, listen, Hamilton Park is getting back together. I'm helping them facilitate this process of them figuring out if they can even move. I really need to know if A, they're still signed to Atlantic, B, if they owe anybody any money. So she was just like, okay, let me go in and have these conversations. So she went to A&R admin and they gave her the okay, like, yeah, they're good to go. They don't owe us anything. They good. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna need these credentials for social media. So she helped me access that. So at that point, when I helped them clear up their shit, they're like, man, Joe, you should just manage it. And, I had a previous rapport with them. So I was like, you know what, you're right. So I started managing them. So now I have my 2 independent management clients. Hamilton Park. And then I just picked up Cashel Kelly, who's a public speaker, author, now chef. She's based in Houston. So, yes, I am on the management team at Wonderland. And I have my own management company called Playtime Talent Group.
And so... we gotta wrap up, but I got a whole bunch of more questions. But some stuff I won't be able to get to. But one thing I want to ask,
we can do a part 2 to this interview.
We do a part 2 there. But 2 things I want to ask. What about work-life balance? How are you able? Because you do so much. Yeah. What does that look like for you?
So Billboard used to have this column. I don't know if they still do it, but it's like a day in the life of whoever the executive is. And they literally do time stamps. So 6 a.m. So for me, life-work balance, I literally work, if you want to label it, I work 2 full-time jobs in 24 hours, basically. So I have to get up earlier than the next person. And then 2, last year, I lost 30 pounds. I was like, I got to get my life together. So last year, I'll just go to last year. So my day would be 5 a.m. wake up, go to the gym for an hour with my trainer. Okay. And then and I work from home, so I don't have to get in my car and drive anywhere if I want to, but I did get office space, so sometimes I do. But from 5 to 6, I'm in the gym. 6 to 7, I come back home to shower, make my smoothie, whatever. From 7 to 10, that's 3 hours of time dedicated to my personal goals, whether that's work, projects that I'm personally working on, whatever. So playtime stuff, J Couture stuff from 7 to 10. From 10 to 12:30, I'm focused on Wonderland, emails, follow-ups, work that I have to do. From 12:30 to 2 or 3 is dedicated time for conference calls. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm doing more Wonderland stuff that I have to do. And then around 6 or 7, lunch is in there too. I break or whatever. When I eat lunch, I make sure I dedicate an hour just to break, to just decompress or whatever. So I'm not in front of my laptop all day. Right. So at 7, I'm usually ending the work day. Some days there are events I have to go to, and this is just if I'm in Atlanta. Some days there are events I have to go to. Networking, just relationship building with different people, and it's not always a sit down meeting. You go for drinks with somebody or I don't know, be informal. Be informal. But relationship building in this business, as you can see, is very important. And a lot of these relationships have become really close friends of mine just because I do things a little different. Like, it's not always about work. Like, I'm not always calling you, asking you for something. Like, let's just go grab a bite to eat. Let's go get a drink. Let's go do some activity, something. Yeah, and then, like, late at night, I'm usually going back to playtime, J Couture stuff. Follow-ups, projects, writing, whatever. I mean, and my days vary depending on, like, if it's touring season or if it's festival season, because I literally just got off for 2.5-month tour, so I wasn't even home. So it just depends on what the priorities are during this season or what I personally have going on or whatever. But recently last year, and what I haven't done, I really dedicated myself to health and wellness. So I was like, that is important. That balance is important. And you have to make time for that.
Yeah, I've been learning that too. Like, even though I'm young or younger, I'm just like, you feel better.
You feel better. It's like, you as a manager, you can't take care of other people unless you're taking care of yourself. Right. And when you're not, if your cup is empty, there's nothing to pour out. So you just want to make sure your cup is full, so you can spill it wherever you need to spill it, and replenish it too. So, you know, like, even like this year is my first year going on vacation. Yeah. I have never been on a vacation, but I'm taking 5 days to Jamaica for my birthday. And it's the first time I've ever done that.
What's your birthday?
August 24th.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, last question. This is how we usually wrap up the podcast. What would you tell 21-year-old Joy?
I would tell 21-year-old Joy that it's okay to have a boyfriend.
Okay. What do you mean by that? Like,
because I sacrificed a lot of relationships for work.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have a lot of time left, but so in college, so when I started the promotions company, I had a boyfriend. And this sounds so bad. I'm so sorry, Brandon. I never really told you sorry. But around this time, his grandmother passed. And I remember being out in the parking lot putting flyers on cars, and he came down crying, like, I need you. Why are you doing da-da-da? And I just looked at him, and all I could see was, this isn't going to work. And I told him, I was like, this is not going to work. This man is crying his heart out to me. He just needed me for 30 minutes, or however many minutes it would have been. And I was just like, nah, buddy, I can't do it. And like my junior year, I had another boyfriend who played ball for Shreveport. He's somewhere in Shreveport. But he would take his time to drive to Baton Rouge to be with me. And I remember we threw a party. It was like a rap party for something we was doing. And, you know, he wanted me to spend time with him at the party a little bit. And I was moving and shaking. And I literally told him, I was like, nigga, I'm out here working. This ain't gonna work.
Wow.
All right. 21-year-old Joy, I would like to talk to her about that balance, that life balance. Like, it's okay to be in a relationship and also hustle. You just have to find your balance. It's like, take 30 minutes out of your day to put in a phone call to this person or go spend time with this person. Let them understand, like, you have a lot going on, but I'm also dedicating time to you because you are important to me. They may have been important to me, but at the time, the work was more important. Obviously, I broke up with people because I had work to do. I feel like, but I mean, at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. I don't know if I wouldn't have been here. Like, maybe I don't know, I might be pregnant or married, or I don't know. Like, you just don't know. But what I do know is I didn't care back then. I didn't care. I didn't attempt to care at all. So, but now as an adult, I understand the importance of that life balance, having that companionship and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's one thing I struggle with. We definitely gotta have a part 2.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of questions on that. But I want to thank you again. I know we've been trying to set this up for a long time. I really do appreciate it. Seriously.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah.
Hopefully, I said something that resonates with your listeners that will help them.
You definitely did.
In their journey.
Well, you definitely helped me. I don't know about them, but I know you helped me, and so I appreciate that.
I'm good. My work here is done.
Yo, so that was it. That was the one and only Joy Young. I told you that she had a super dope story. You know, she came from a super small town to working with people like Janelle Monae, you know, one of the biggest artists out right now. And 2 things real quick that stuck out to me. Number 1 was that she had faith. You know, she was able to discern and listen to God and be obedient to what he was telling her to do. even when it was like super uncomfortable or super, frowned upon to go back home or to start over and change your number and to even fast and stuff like that. And I think a lot of times we hear that voice or we know what to do, but we just don't listen to it because it's uncomfortable. And then the second thing that I got from her was like, she had somebody in her life that was keeping her accountable, that was praying for her, and that was able to, help her make certain decisions in life. And I think everybody needs that. We need some type of accountability partner, somebody that's going to have your back, man, not just, when it's time to fight, but when it's time to really pray or really to look out for somebody, man. She had those people in her life, and, that caused her to have the story that she has now. And I'm just excited to see what she's going to do next. Man, thank y'all for tuning in. Hit me up on Instagram at Juwan Hubbard. Go to the Smoking Podcast. Smoking Podcast on Instagram. And then also go check out the website, castmedia.com. Thank y'all, man. Y'all have a great week, man. Hit me up. Peace.